Hi folks, Navy Dowdy here. What's going on in the retirement planning world right now? Here's my take for this week. As you know, occasionally I will put up a summary of what my friends and clients have asked me in the previous week and kind of give you my take on it. Here's my take for this week. This last week, of course, the biggest question is how will the indictment affect my money? And I would say not much. I try to focus most on money flows and retirement planning and look at the big picture. The year before an election historically has been a decent year. Why? Because the party in power wants to have things look pretty good before the election. Election year has tended to be better even than the previous year. These, of course, are just tendencies. Domestic or world events can vastly overwhelm these tendencies. So let me point out, 4 big dominoes have fallen already this year. Up until the big political news grabbed the headlines, the biggest question was, is my money safe in the bank? Should I take it out? And if so, where should I put it? All good questions. Here's my take on that question. The fractional reserve banking system that banks use means that when you put $1,000 in your bank, they lend most of it out. And it's no longer in that bank. It goes to another bank. And that bank lends most of it out, and so on and so on. That is what can cause stress and an actual run on the bank if most people try to take all their money out at the same time. To make the issue even worse, banks like Silicon Valley Bank had a lot of their reserves in long-term treasury bonds. When interest rates go up, bonds go down. It's like a teeter-totter. It's a very simple equation. Interest rates up, bonds down. Do you think the regulators knew this? Of course. We can speculate why this was not fixed at the banks. Remember stress testing? What happened to that when they were raising interest rates? Having said all that, I would not panic and take all my money out of the bank. Bank deposits are insured by the FDIC, and I believe that up to $250,000, the FDIC will pay off the depositors. I would not count on more than that, however. They do not want any panic in the system, so for most of you, I would diversify amongst the banks if you have more than $250,000 in any one bank on deposit. Maybe even if you have less. Maybe you have some at the local bank and some at a big national bank. That way you're covered under both circumstances and you have access to the local bank. You'll have access to the big national bank as well. Even if one of them were to fail, the FDIC will come along and give that money back up to $250,000. That's an insurance policy. They'll do that. There's no real advantage at all to have it all in one bank. Your brokerage account may also have check writing privileges. Usually you don't want to have checks written on your brokerage account for tiny little, $5 checks, but since a lot of our transactions are electronic now anyway, having a brokerage account that you can write checks on if you want to, bigger checks, that might make sense. Just remember, a brokerage money market account is not the same as a bank money market. Same words, but very different financial instruments. Kind of like the word annuity, same words, but 8 different types. The brokerage money market is a money market mutual fund, subject to fluctuation. It says so right in the prospectus. You did read the prospectus, didn't you? For that piece of your money, I suggest that you use a government money market fund. There will be much safer. The short-term earnings rate's much less important than if you have access to your money. You might even get more return right now in the government money market. Of course, all this begs the question, are they going to collapse the dollar and replace it with another currency? Probably someday. Reserve currencies don't stay reserve currencies forever, but I don't think that's going to happen in the near future. Will they replace the dollar with crypto? Maybe someday, but not right away. I know that you get emails all the time with a near future day when everything's going to collapse, and it never happens. Then they send you another email with a date a little further out. You still need US dollars. In future posts, I'll talk about other places that you can put your money to protect it from the other big risk to your dollars, and that is inflation. A lot of people call it the silent tax. The short answer, of course, is to own things that are going up in price. Remember the rule of 100? Nobody's talking about that anymore, but they should be. That rule says that you subtract your age from 100, and the answer is the most that you should have at risk. If you're 65, 100 minus 65 is 35. So you would shoot for having about 35% of your money at risk, maybe a little more, a little less, depending on what's going on in the outside world. I've followed Warren Buffett's writings for decades, and he wrote way back in the 70s that people should take enough out of their investments and put it in the bank so that they could live for 10 years if the market shut down for 10 years. Now that would be pretty unthinkable, but could you live for 10 years on what you have outside the market if everything shut down for 10 years? Something to think about. But that is a topic for another day. For now, subscribe to this channel and I'll send you my famous Save Taxes checklist. 199 ways to save taxes. And by the way, taxes are almost certainly your biggest expense. If you don't get unnecessary taxes under control, you really can't have the best retirement. Don't think you're paying unnecessary taxes. You are. Almost everybody is. I'll also send you a copy of my On-Tax Family Wealth Smiling Retiree process and a short version of the training. I'm Navy Dowdy, and remember, financial fitness can be beneficial to your wealth.